right, I call this meeting of the City Commission to order. Let the record show that we have a quorum. This time, if we'll stand, I'll ask Commissioner Searle to lead us in the invocation.
Father in heaven, we thank you for this day and for all the blessings in it. Father, I just thank you for the safety and protection of our city. Father, I just pray that as a commission, Father, you'll give us the wisdom and the strength and knowledge that we need to make the decisions for this city. Father, help us to listen first, Father, then use the knowledge that you give us before we make a decision, that it will be made for the betterment of the city as well as its citizens. Father, be with us always and keep us safe. Father, I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right. Are the gardeners going to speak under public comment today? No. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, under discussion items, we'll move to item number 1, budget recap. Ms. Robin, is that for you?
Yes.
All right.
Kevin, go into the finance budget.
Finance public.
Budget. Commission presentation. It says it was saved 30 seconds ago. Kevin, go to not found it.
Yeah, it's up. It's up.
There we go. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about the general fund a little bit first. The general fund, the budget is, I think it's the same as when we last met. 13,720,711. It's broken down in that pie chart, and as we talked about before, most of this revenue comes from property taxes and sales taxes and charges for services. We're just kind of going over this quickly. We've already gone over most of it, but we're going to talk about how the ad valorem taxes are going to impact this budget. We've made a few changes. These are the general fund expenditures. Talked about them before. We've got some different got a pie chart in there to look at it. You can see where most of the expenditures are in police, fire, and solid waste collection. Okay, our changes since our last run, we have entered in an increase in property tax to our current rate, to the 73 cents, and we'll talk about that in detail when we get over to that. We've increased sales tax a little bit, our transfer in and our admin charges. Those are charges the other funds pay into the into the general fund to help cover some overhead costs for people that help run those departments. And we've had some compensation plan changes. A budget restriction line item has been added. That's $100,000. It's in a specific account. No one can authorize use of that account except Shane. And we put in some wildfire suits for the fire department, and that will finish that project. We bought some of them this year, and then we had half of the remaining ones that we needed budgeted for next year, and we went ahead and did the whole thing to finish up that project. It is a door replacement at the armory, dog park improvements, and some changes in IT. That's some changes to our accounting and utilities, permitting, several different parts of our software, and it's a change to move us to a hosted environment instead of just the software. Okay, this is the general fund capital improvements. We've got $636,000 in this general fund capital. If you look over to the funding column, which is the next to the last one on the right, that the OP tells you that it's coming from operating funds. The OPG is some grant money. Down there, when you see that restricted for that dog park, we have a parks donations account. That money goes into that account, and then we can use it for those top things. And then the VR and the DR are replacement funds. It's vehicle replacement and then dumpster and side loader replacement. So all of those things got into the general fund, or got budgeted. Okay, this is what the general fund looks like. The $13,727,11 revenues, expenditures are $14,936,031. When you look at the Encode report, which is our software report, you're going to see a negative $1,215,320. But then we're going to go back and we're going to take those vehicle replacement funds we just talked about in the dumpster replacement funding, add that back to that bottom because we're not needing those expenditures out of that operating budget. There is $23,000 worth of restricted funds for the Brick Valley project that we've been working on, the Brick Valley's downtown. And we have $10,000 in restricted funds for a command trailer, and then the $20,000 parks donations fund. That takes us with a change in fund balance of a negative $479,992. And if you look at this, we looked at this slide the last time we met as well. This goes into over on the left. There's your proposed budget again. If you look about 3/4 down that blue column, you see that, or that blue box, you see the $1,012,15,320 that we just talked about. Adding back those replacement funds and the restricted cash, that's that $479,922 that I told you is the negative change to fund balance. If you look over to the right, you'll see the beginning of the year we project to have $3,881,610. The change in fund balance, which is pulling that down, will be $3 million. It will end up being $3,401,000, and you can see that the black line across there. You can see how we got to that, and then where it's going on fund balance. That would leave us 25.26% in fund balance of the operating revenues. And again, we talked last time about our policies. Our formal policy is that we keep 20% in there, but we try to keep 25%. For if things come up, it gives us just a little more cushion on that. Okay, so were there any questions about that before we go on? We're going to talk a little bit more about that fund balance here in just a bit. So this is just a recap again of MK Brown. They ended up with $333 in the black, and they were doing $25,000 worth of equipment replacement. This is the library. This is $69 in the black. They didn't have any oh yes they did. $5,000 worth of lighting and things being changed. The reason we're going back over these just real quickly, we went over them in detail, but we're going to be filing the official proposed budget in Karen's office on Friday. So I just wanted y'all to see these again before we get that, before we put that out. So if you have any questions over it, just stop me. This is our Fund 26. It's a new fund to us, and it's what we're now required to put the public safety grants in. So when you see fire, police, and emergency management, if we have any grants in there, that fund will be in there. This is an emergency management grant. We expect to get $25,000, and so we've diverted $25,000 of the expenditures from the general fund over to that fund. Okay, and then this is our big one. This is the Coronavirus Relief Fund. This is the bottom line on it. Next year, we did not put in what we expect to get next year. We currently are going to get $2,116,000. Next year, we expect to get the second round of that, so that same amount. But until we actually get the award, we're not going to put it in our budget. When we get it, we'll do it. But out of that, we're going to be able to spend $60,000, which is a new heating and air conditioning system for the Armory building. That's something that falls under that. So we've got that budgeted there. And there's that. Okay, the lease properties is the one we talked about before, that the note payable for the Lone Star Gin is in this account. It's not considered a revenue because it is just a note payable. They give us cash and we relieve their note payable amount. But we have about $29,000 worth of revenues coming in, and the 223 expenditures, 200 of that goes to the general fund. That's what that payment is, and it goes to help the general fund. And the other is just some miscellaneous things out there. So it's that negative 191, 131 comes out of their fund balance. Okay, water and wastewater, we talked about it last time. There's been some significant changes to it. When we found out we're going to get this CRF money, or the FRF money, that's a program that has several different things. I think that's a little further on in here. Specific things that you can spend that for, one of which is water improvements, water and sewer improvements. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But after we went through this, we decided that our best way to spend that money was to be on water and sewer improvements. And that would allow us to relieve the money that we had set aside to do some of those improvements and move it over into a new capital improvements fund. And that fund it'll be its own fund. We'll budget things through there. It'll be for all funds, general fund, water and sewer, landfill, anything that we need to buy capital out of. This $4 million will be the seed money in that fund. And we will, before we haven't budgeted to spend any of that this year, and before next year, we'll go through and we'll do a formal policy that you guys will approve on how we're going to do it, how much it'll take to replenish it, what, I guess kind of what the process is for different departments to use that money. So we'll go into all that in detail in a formal policy that we'll follow. But this one, so that's why this one looks so crazy right now. Its revenues are $8,326,000. The expenditures are $14,472,000. This includes capital that we're fixing to look at, and it includes that $4 million transfer out to Capital Projects Fund. One of the reconciling items is the 2020 CO has money in it for meter replacement that we expect to spend $600,000 of. In our restricted funds, we have money set aside that we have plugged that number. We've got more money than that, but we're going to hold on to, we're going to use that much money to balance this budget. And then that $4 million we just talked about. And these are the different items that are in their budget for this year. The first one is the generator we've talked about before that we're getting a grant for. And then some water main replacement, that meter project, training for a rehab trailer that we have, sewer main replacement on Tuke, and then some sewer infrastructure improvements over near a creek we have in town. And then the wastewater treatment plant improvement project, that'll pretty much finish out that project for $1,970,000. Okay, the aquatic center, we have to subsidize it, and we end up just letting it letting it go to a balanced budget of 0 when it's over with. We talked about that last time. Solid waste, which is our landfill, will be $245,000 in the black, which is good for them. And we are buying one John Deere tractor. I think that's a used tractor. Okay, and then the golf course as well, we have to subsidize it, so we just subsidize it enough to completely clear its balance. Okay, you ready to talk about the tax rate? We will jump right in there. The tax rate, the last time we talked about we had got some of the rates in and we felt like they were going to be a little bit lower. Going in and looking at our budget, we decided to propose the current tax rate, which is 73 cents. And I'm going to kind of go through how we come to how we'll spend that money. The top number, if you'll just look at that row of numbers, the certified appraised value is what we get from Tyson over at GreyCAD, $845 million. The certified taxable value is the same as the number he gives us as well, $677, $596, $493. Then we get a report from the tax assessor collector that shows us that $113,042,150 is the amount of value of the properties in the city that have a ceiling of some sort on them. So we subtract that out, knowing we can't do the full rate on that. So it leaves us with the estimated taxable value after the loss. So you take that number, we estimate we'll collect 99% of it. We applied the current tax rate of the 73 cents, and that gives us a total revenue of $4,080,034. Then we get also from the tax assessor collector, we get that estimated levy on the frozen property, which is that amount up above that $113 million. So we think that'll be how much tax we collect on that, and add it to it. So you have that $4,733,413. So that's what we expect to collect in taxes. Then by charter, 3 cents of that goes to the library. So there's a calculation to transfer $194 to the library. Then our debt service that comes out of tax money is $1,221,208. And then so the rest of it goes to the general fund. So $3,317,682 is general fund. And then if you look down there below, there's that totals up to that $1,221,208. That's the principal, interest, and a couple of those debt issuances have like an admin charge of like $500 a year or something like that on it. So that's all included in there. The 2012 GO, the 2017 refunding, the 2019-10, and the 2020 CO are what make these up. And I think the next slideshow will break it down for us. Yes, we are. If you look at this, this is all the general fund debt. This includes interest as well. So this isn't our principal balance. But if you look at 2009 CO over to the far left, we paid that off this year. The 2012 will go out to 2032. That's the animal shelter. And then the next one, the GO refunding series 2015, that refunded some previous debt. I think it was from 2005. That paid off in 2020. And then we've got the 2017. It was a refunding of 08 and 09, which I can't remember exactly what all that covered. It was I think mainly streets. And then the tax notes for series 2019, those were a 7-year thing, so they'll pay off in 2026. And then the 2020 series, which is all of this is for streets. And so that doesn't pay off till 2035. But that's what all the payments. And if you look on that total thing about 5 lines down, it's got that amount that we just talked about in the budget. So that's kind of what the debt looks like for the next, 14 years. Any questions on that before we go on? Okay. All right. So on tax rates, we've got the no new revenue rate, which we talked about before, is a calculation that's done that the intent is what rate it would take to bring in the same amount of taxes last year. It's not quite as elementary as that when you calculate it. There's a lot involved in getting into that. There's also a voter approved rate, and that rate is is supposed to be the other rate times 3.5%. And that's not that elementary either. There's also a section called the unused incremental rate, which is a rate from last year that we did, the amount between the tax we adopted and the amount we could have adopted. So that was about 5 cents difference. And so that's now called an unused incremental, and you can add it to what you're currently doing. So the voter approved rate adjusted for that, it just adds that amount to it. We'll see those in just a second. Okay, this is the no new revenue rate is the 0.675654. The way it would affect a home value, that 61,681 is the average home value in Pampa. It would be $417 would be their levy for the year. The proposed rate, which is the 73 cents that we've proposed in this budget, the 73, which is the current rate, that tax bill is $450 on the average home. And then the unadjusted VAR rate is at 0.746704. That would take that bill up to $461. That'd be $11 more. And then the VAR rate is the one that I told you that was the unused increments is added to it. That is what truly is the VAR. So that at that rate is when, if we went over that, is when we'd have an automatic election on that rate. So you can see the breakdown too. There's $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. You can kind of see the fluctuation in those. Is there any question on that or how that works? No. Okay. This is just the history of the tax rate. You can, now that we've got all these slides together and we've got the budget all together, we're fixing to send all of this out to you to look at. We keep saying we're going to send it to you, but we're kind of waiting until we got it all done. This is a history. It gives you the year and the tax roll, the taxable value, and the operations part of the rate, the debt service, and the library, and then the total rate. So down there at the bottom where I have the big white band, that's because we changed what we called it before. They were called effective rates and rollback rates and all that. But so we changed the headers. This year, again, that taxable value is at $677,596, and those rates are all the way across there to get to that 73, and then those rates are repeated down there. That's kind of how they all work out. You can see in prior years, if you look up on the top blue section, if you look at the total rate, which is the third column from the right, you can see the total rate. It was $695 for some years, and it went down to $69 and $665. Then it went down to $62. I think we had a whole lot of new property, new valuation in town at that point, and then it was 62, and then started building back up, and it was 67.7 cents for a while, and it jumped up to 73, and so you can just kind of see that on that. It is interesting to look at the total rate, the effective rate, and the rollback rate. You can see a lot of those years we were pretty close to the rollback. So we'll send those out, and you can dig through those if you want to. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about the CLFRF, and basically, like I told you before, it's pretty much the catalyst for this capital replacement fund. I'm repeating myself with this slide, but basically the funds can be used for COVID mitigation. There's several different things in there that could be used for, in revenue recovery or improvements to broadband, water and sewer. Like I said before, we've decided the most sensible thing to do with it is to do that, so we could divert the money that the water fund has and start this improvements fund. Yeah, I covered all that. Okay, and so it, like we saw in the water little summary, it will be the fund that transfers it out into Fund 66. It'll be a separate fund with its own budget. Everything will be itemized in it, everything that, that's approved to go through that fund. It'll work a lot like our vehicle replacement fund. We're not budgeting to use any of that capital next year, and we'll work on that policy and cover things like how to replenish it and just different things like that. the different funds can still pay into that, like the vehicle replacement, they pay into that fund each year. We can set up a policy for how we're going to do that, how we're going to, if the departments that use it more pay more, or how we want to do that, but we can decide that later. And this is what it would look like next year. It'll show that revenue coming in at $4 million and no expenditures. And now we're down to the calendar. Today we talked about we had the tax rate discussion and recap the budget. Friday we'll send this budget to Karen's office. We'll publish a notice of the budget hearing in the Pampa News on, I guess that'll be Saturday's paper, right? We don't have Sunday anymore. So Saturday's paper. At our next meeting is when we'll anything you want to discuss on budget again, we can do that. And that's when there'll be a resolution that comes in that'll have a rate in it. And then you'll either, increase it, decrease it, whatever you want to do. But that rate that you vote on at that meeting will be the official proposed tax rate. And it'll go in all the publications. And so then after that, we'll just go on with our special meetings and our votes on the budget and votes on the tax rate and finally get to the end. Do I have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Shane, you have anything you want to add?
Just a reiterated comment I made to you guys in the update. Big thanks to Robin and Teresa both for all their work on this. This is every year it's a process and a lot of work, but this year it's been so different, and I appreciate them for their innovative thinking and helping us through this process.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
This discussion item 2, ad valorem tax rate, was that included in that, or is that a separate item?
Yes,
It
we
was.
covered
That was
In a
okay.
bundle
I thought it was.
together,
I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll move in then to our regular agenda items. Let's see. Move to agenda item 1. Consider approving the minutes of the July 26, 2021 regular commission as presented. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider approving the minutes of the July 26, 2021 regular commission meeting as presented.
Okay, we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Dowdy, a second from Commissioner Searle. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move to agenda item 2. Excuse the absence of Commissioner Jimmy Keough from the July 26, 2021 regular commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to excuse the absence of Commissioner Jimmy Keough from the July 26, 2021 regular commission meeting.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Fisher, a second from Commissioner Searle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 3. Consider adopting resolution number R21-027, a resolution by the City Commission adopting Executive Order GA34 and extending to September 7th, 2021, the City of Pampa's declaration of a local disaster order. Shane? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider adopting resolution number R21-027 as read by the mayor.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Now we'll have
Now I
discussion.
can speak on it. This is just another continuation of the disaster declaration that the governor has in place. We'll continue to do this as long as that order is in place, just to maintain eligibility for grant funding, et cetera. I'm sure you all are aware that COVID numbers are increasing around the state, and they are increasing here locally as well, but not to the extent that you read about around the state. I know that our numbers, positive numbers for Gray County, had been hovering around 5 to 10, and they'd gotten up to like 23. And last I looked last Friday, they were back down to 20. Our hospitalization rate in the area, I think, was 5 or lower for the longest time. Now it's around 10. So it is increasing here as well, but not quite as much as you see downstate. So we'll just continue this as long as you guys are willing to do that and keep us eligible for any grant funding that comes available. And this will run through, I believe, September 7th. Get us through this month.
Counselor Guyman, do you have anything to add? Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dowdy and a second by Commissioner Keough. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, agenda item 4. Consider adopting resolution R21-028, resolution by the City Commission approving a negotiated settlement between the Executive Committee of Cities served by Atmos West Texas and Atmos Energy Corporation's West Texas Division regarding the company's 2021 rate review mechanism filing.
I make a motion that we consider adopting resolution R21-028 as read.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Shane, you want to speak on that?
Yes, I can. And I can go as deep in the weeds on this as you guys want me to, but I'll probably just kind of give you an overview, and then if you want any more details, you can stop by and I can explain them to you. But Pampa is one of 67 cities in West Texas that is a part of an alliance. It's called Atmos West Texas Cities. It's very similar to what we have with XL or SPS. An alliance of cities that groups together and then we have a consultant and attorney that we deal with when it comes to rate cases by the company. Atmos rate cases are usually very small in comparison to the electric side. This one in particular, I think they started out requesting like $1.2 million. It was negotiated down to $152,000 increase, West Texas region wide. We in 2007, I believe, we did a settlement with Atmos and created the rate review mechanism, which is the RRM, which basically just expedites it. Anytime Atmos files a rate increase case, the RRM allows us to negotiate it on a very small scale compared to a full-blown rate case. And so that has been very helpful to us through the years. This particular case, I think it's going to increase the average residential bill by about 7 cents a month, commercial bill by 26 cents, and an industrial bill by about $4 a month. So this is not large by any means. There are some cities in the Panhandle that did not decide to go with the RRM, and they still use the GRIP process, which is gas reliability infrastructure program, I believe, that was established by the legislature in the early 2000s. And when we do a rate case with Atmos, we always compare to those cities that are using the GRIP process versus our RRM to see if it's working out for us. And it still seems to be, we're still going to be about $2.13 less for an average bill than Amarillo, and roughly about the same for Lubbock. And then there's a couple of small cities, I think Dalhart and Channing still use the GRIP process. So it's still advantageous to us to continue the RRM with the other 66 cities. And again, this compared to a large electric rate case is very small, but we have to go through the process, and you guys have to approve the resolution for the settlement. And I'll try to answer any questions you might have if you have any. The last time we did an Atmos case was in 2020, I think a year ago, and it was a little bit larger. I think it was like a $3 increase per month, but this one is, like I said, very small. And these new rates won't be effective until December of this year.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Karen, before we vote, for the record, do I need to read this long? Okay,
was afraid of that.
And then
All right.
Paul's motion of as read will be legitimate. After you read
Okay. You lucky rascal. Okay, hang on here. Resolution number R21-028. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pampa, Texas, approving a negotiated settlement between the Executive Committee of the cities served by Atmos West Texas Cities and Atmos Energy Corp. West Texas Division regarding the company's 2021 rate review mechanism filing, declaring existing rates to be unreasonable, adopting tariffs that reflect rate adjustments consistent with the negotiated settlement, finding the rates to be set by the attached settlement tariffs to be just and reasonable and in the public interest, approving an attached exhibit establishing a benchmark for pensions and retiree medical benefits, approving an attached exhibit regarding amortization of regulatory liability, requiring the company to reimburse cities reasonable rate-making expenses, determining that this resolution was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, adopting a savings clause, declaring an effective date, and requiring delivery of this resolution to the company and the city's legal counsel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item agenda number 5. Consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine in nature by the commission and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the commissioner so requests, in which event that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in normal sequence on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve all consent agenda items.
A second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Keough and a second by Commissioner Searle. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Down here to the Okay, at this time, the City Commission will convene into closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code, Chapter D, Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, and Section 55.071, Consultation with Attorney, to discuss, number 1, Community Involvement Committee members' appointments, and number 2, contemplated or pending litigation. The City Commission will reconvene into open session with or without action taken. So we are going into executive session at 4:38. God bless y'all. You're a good sport. All right, we're back in open session at 5:26. We'll be adjourned at 5:26.